It's time for Pod of the Dead. Join
us! All right. Hello and welcome to Pod of the Dead, the internet horror film club that nobody asked for. I am your host, Nicholas, and as always, I am joined by the final girl, Natasha.
Hello. If you want more from us, check out our links in the description below. We also have a Patreon. And thanks to our members who have already joined, as a member, you get voting power to pick a movie once a month, as well as the first look at our movie lineups. As always, don't forget to spread the love by rating and reviewing on Spotify or wherever you listen. We really, really appreciate it. On this week's episode, we are going over 2019's Us. It's considered a psychological horror film written and directed by Jordan Peele. The film features an ensemble cast starring Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Shahadi Wright-Joseph, Evan Alex, Elizabeth Moss, and Tim Heidecker. The story follows Adelaide Wilson, played by Nyong'o, and her family, who are attacked by a group of menacing doppelgängers called the Tethered.
So coming into this week's episode, what is your history with this film?
I've seen it once before. I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it probably 2 years after it came out. And I was the reason why we're watching it this week.
Yep. This is my first time viewing it. I'm aware of it. I'm aware of Jordan Peele, watched Get Out and everything. I really liked Get Out. If you want to hear us talk about that, we do have an episode back in the archive of Get Out. But this came out and I was like, oh, I'm going to check that out. And then I didn't. And then later on, Nope came out and I was like, oh, I never watched Us. I should probably watch Nope. And then I didn't watch Nope. And I don't know, it just happens. It's one of those things where I look at it where it's it doesn't need my money. That seems like it's doing well enough. I'm going to go watch these films that look like they need my money or my, attention and stuff like that. And it's a weird mannerism, I guess, I've got when it comes to movies. It comes off like you don't watch it because it's popular. And I'm like, no, it just doesn't go up the list because it's popular. That's if it's interesting, it could literally be this movie seems interesting but not a lot of people talk about it, against this movie seems interesting but everyone's talking about it. It's well, everyone already knows about that. I want to watch this one because I haven't heard anything about it. I want to see it, and then if it's cool, I can tell everybody else to go check it out. So you can take that for what it's worth, but that's usually what pushes movies up and down my lists. And sometimes there's movies like Nosferatu, which I went and saw on Christmas Day because I was just I need to see this before it gets spoiled for me. Even though I know what the film is, I saw the original 20s version. So I already knew that. But yeah, so I just missed this one in a way. It just kept slipping down my list. And then it wasn't on any streaming service. I had to rent this one. So that also, which is really surprising that this isn't streaming places, considering we need to get Jason Blum out of the podcast. This wasn't a Blumhouse production, but he was one of the producers on it. This is getting to be a bit much. This is 4 in a row now where Jason Blum is just showing up, and I've had it. I fucking had it. Jason, get out.
Wait, has he overstayed his welcome?
Something. It's not that he was even welcome. It's just oh, this is Blumhouse. Oh, there it is again. Oh, God damn it, here it is again. It's oh, okay.
True.
The Monkey Paw production thing comes up, and at first I was oh my God, is this a Blumhouse production? It's Monkey Paw. I was oh, that's Jordan Peele's thing. And then I'm watching the producers thing. I'm motherfucking Jason Blum's in this too. Son of a bitch. With Elizabeth Moss. We just saw you guys. So,
and I remember doing the Invisible Man episode and saying that I wasn't too keen on Elizabeth Moss, so I was interested in that movie. It turns out I just didn't like her character in this movie the first time around. This was the movie I watched her in that I didn't like her in. After seeing a really good performance in The Invisible Man, I realized it's just her character's a bitch.
Kitty and Josh are probably two of my favorite characters in this movie because Elizabeth Moss as Kitty and Tim Heidecker as Josh. That's Tim and Eric. Like, that's Tim from Tim and Eric. Like, awesome show, great job. So like when he showed up on screen, I was like, oh my god, I didn't fucking know this. Which makes sense because Jordan Peele's background, like in comedy and like absurdist kind of humor stuff here and there, they probably ran in similar circles. But that was a nice surprise for me. But so this came out in 2019. So this came out before, COVID, and that it sucks. Like we're getting ready to get, well, as of this coming out, we're in 2025, and we still also always have to go like keep that in consideration, when we're thinking about all this stuff. But this is right before, the world took a dump. What do you think its budget was?
Big. I think it was that's right.
Big.
Get to hear my brain. I think it was $23 million.
All right, pretty close. $20 million.
Okay.
So you're right in that sweet spot. So yeah, it was made for $20 million, which I believe, I don't have the number in front of me, but that seems like it's almost double the budget of Get Out. So like Get Out was such a hit. Like obviously that's just how it works. They are going to give you more money, So this came out 2019, $20 million budget. What do you think it ended up grossing?
$100 million.
This movie made $256 million. Good
job.
That shocked the hell out of me. Because I'd never seen this, so I did the research after the film. So I watched the movie and I had a number in my head, then I saw that number and I was like, I am not the people that was really into this.
Yeah.
So it grossed $71 million over its opening weekend in the United States, and that at the time was the highest ever for an original horror film, and the second highest for an original live action film after the original Avatar, which its opening weekend was $77 million. So there's really not and this isn't me skipping ahead, there's not a lot of pre-production notes or how he came to this. Like he was kind of like a little cagey on stuff, like when so what does the movie exactly mean and everything, and he's like, well, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people and stuff, and I was influenced by like The Shining and things of that, like your standard stuff. But there wasn't a lot that I found anyhow when it came to like his actual making of it. What do you got?
There was a interview with him on NPR, and he has a quote that says, it starts with a fear that I can't explain. The idea that if I saw myself on the street, you immediately know that one of you might go. There's only room for one. And on top of that, if you see yourself and yourself smiles back at you, you know that the other one has the upper hand. So in this article, he goes into a little detail of like the fear of looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing who you truly are, seeing yourself as all of the negative components.
Okay.
And then there are quite a few, they're analyses, they're not necessarily from him, talking about how this movie dives into the id and the ego.
Oh yeah, there's that stuff, but I was just saying, like, when it comes to like Jordan Peele being like, oh, I really wanted to do this, or I really wanted to do that, and it's like, I wrote, produced, directed it, and I had this idea. Oh, okay, what was the idea? It was like, like doppelgängers. That's about all you get out of him. And like he talks about like what influences he had, but like the influences that he had were more with like the cinematography, not the narrative. So like The Shining, Jaws, things of that nature, and like interesting little, I don't want to say like story beats, because it's not like a story beat, but like, and I'll get into it more in spoiler territory, but like I felt that this was kind of weak, but in a way it's like, this is where I got influenced, so I can't say that it's weak, but thriller, even though like there's a Thriller t-shirt in this, but also like if you're familiar with the music video, it is this, like, it's such a weird thing to be like, I was influenced by Thriller, but like at the same time, it's like, okay, like you could have taken that influence from anything, but the fact that you're using Thriller as the one that, okay, we'll get there when we get there. But I was just like, very strange. Like,
in this interview, he talks a lot about the doppelganger mythology. I don't want to read it like all, but I think there's a lot of good in this paragraph, so bear with me. It says that it makes you question your own identity when you're looking into a mirror. And when that is put into question, he says that that can be like an existential crisis in his mind. So knowing throughout history the doppelganger mythology exists, and what I think it represents is this is Jordan Peele, is that everything that we don't face in ourselves, it is a representation of our guilt, trauma, and fear and hatred that might be buried underneath the layers of pleasantry. And all of that stuff we don't deal with, when it comes out in crazy ways. He says, I tried to apply this idea of duality in everything in this film. And I think the piece of the puzzle that pushed me to embark on this is the idea of the doppelganger family. That is, when the movie sort of went from being about self-introspection into the idea of a societal or collective introspection. So it goes deep into like not just us seeing ourselves, but us seeing like, what does us mean? Is it
I get that.
Us and them? Is it us as a group versus them as an out group? Is it us as a larger group versus them as a bigger, larger out group? Well, like
the one, and this isn't Jordan Peele saying this. This is like people like.
No, this was Jordan Peele saying.
No, what I'm getting ready to say is, and it's, I don't know, like people, everything that I read of like analysis or whatever on this film, they were speaking on it like it was like this hidden meaning throughout the film, but I think it's very on the surface, where like they're talking about like have and have nots or class and stuff like that. They're like, oh, it's so blah blah. I was like, I was expecting more. I guess that's honestly, that was my thing. Not comparing it to Get Out narratively or anything like that, but the way in which it's delivered to you, I was expecting it to be deeper, I guess. And like at the end of the day, it's very like on the nose, and we'll get into more obviously in spoiler territory, but like that was my thing, was like, because I like watched it, I was like, I think I know what I watched, but I'm going to get online and maybe I missed something. And then everything I'm reading, they're like, well, you probably didn't realize. And then they like put it in. I'm like, how didn't anybody realize these things? It's very obvious. So that's what I was hoping for when doing research for it, was like him talking about, because like he does have a very in-depth like talking about like the African American male in society when he's talking about Get Out. Like there's like this real lived kind of thing. And when it was for this, it was very much like, well, you know, people wear masks and sometimes masks slip, like that whole kind of thing. And I was just like, there's a billion movies that do that. I thought there was going to be more to it. Now, that being said, that's me building my own hype, so that's not fair to the movie per se, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that this, going into it, he had, granted, his pedigree was Key and Peele and Get Out, for me anyhow. And I was like, okay, like I'm expecting this to be something. Like I'm not even comparing it to Get Out, but I was expecting it to be a little more thought-provoking, I guess, is what I was hoping for. And I've got a really quick 3-act breakdown of this film that gives nothing away, but it's just my 3-act breakdown. And it's Act 1, sucked. Act 2, cool, fun. Act 3, all exposition.
Yeah.
That's this movie for me. So like that's the thing, is like I was talking to Steph because she didn't watch it with me, but she was like, so how was your movie? And I kind of told her whatever, and I was like, it feels like he had 2 scripts and he just kind of smashed them together and was like, oh, this kind of works with this and this kind of works with that. But like there was like an interesting like doppelganger slasher movie that he wanted to make, and then there was like a really interesting like social commentary piece that he wanted to make, and he to me forced them together. It wasn't made to be a singular thing, but he made it a singular thing, is how it felt to me. So again, this is, I'm not giving anything away. It's just, this is my experience watching it. But there are like a shit ton of Easter eggs in this film for his influence. Like when I was saying, like he's really influenced for shots with Jaws. Kids wearing a Jaws shirt, really influenced by like the Wolfman and things of that nature, and Lon Chaney and stuff. Kids wearing a Wolfman mask, like all of that kind of stuff. And it's just like, if I were a director, I would have a hard time not doing that kind of stuff. Like not just being like, I'm putting all my fucking things in this movie and it's just going to be my love note to my stuff. And that's what I think this movie kind of is like he finally got like for a horror film, an insane amount of money for an original story and everything. It was just like, I'm putting my stamp on this in every way, but it wasn't a narrative stamp. It's a visual stamp. Mm-hmm. It's just, it literally like, it's just a lot of that stuff. Now there are some really cool things dealing with, like, I noticed that there were 2 Black Flag shirts in this movie. And I was like, why is Black Flag showing up in here? And we'll get to that. These are the interesting things that go into spoiler territory. That this kind of stuff is neat, but it, at the same time, is not deep. It's just kind of cool. So that's the thing for me. Now, I can 100% see someone getting pissed at me saying this, but this movie is all style, no substance to me. It's a beautifully shot movie. It's well acted. The script isn't bad per se. It's just, for me, kind of does, it just kind of, it just happens. Like that's kind of how I was like, we're climbing up this mountain. I'm like, we're gonna hit the top, and then we're gonna get on the big hill, the roller coaster hill, and the hill just never happened for me. Instead, I got just exposition, and that was, But do you got anything else you want to talk about before we get into spoiler? Because like that's about all I've really got when it comes to this, outside of box office and the year that was for it.
Yeah, I do. So you've mentioned Jaws and The Shining as being inspiration, but Jordan Peele had the cast watch, I think it was 11 different horror movies before the movie even started shooting, so that they could all have the same language. He talks about like a shared language among horror. And I think you'll be interested to know some of these. So Jaws, Dead Again, The Shining, The Babadook, It Follows, A Tale of Two Sisters, which is a Korean horror film.
I've seen that.
The Birds, Funny Games, Martyrs.
I don't believe Martyrs at all. Get that shit. There's no motherfucker. No, this is not me. Nothing. What? Because there's underground stuff. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Let the Right One In and The Sixth Sense.
Okay, so a lot of that stuff, I instantly can go like, you're okay. So this is the cast or production crew included, because
I don't know about that, but it says
I can see some of this stuff because of like color palette and because of like angles that he wants to use. I can see that in certain things like Martyrs. Like there's some stuff when we get to spoiler territory. It's like I can see that, but like Tale of Two Sisters, it's like I guess, I mean, it technically is kind of a but like the ones that stand out, obviously Shining, because we've got the over the top, like every fucking movie does this,
big
and they're
shots.
The big shot over top with the car coming through the woods and everything, and it's not a novel thing anymore. Everybody does it, so it's like, oh, influenced by The Shining. It's like when everything's influenced by The Shining, everything is generic now. Like it's not novel to do that anymore. Personally, like, because instantly it starts on like The Shining, like it's just like, oh, we get it, you like Stanley Kubrick. Everybody that does horror that wants to be like, you know, oh, I'm artsy, I like Stanley Kubrick. It's like, fucking okay, we get it, you all like it. I mean, like Robert Eggers,
it's a cool shot. You can't deny that it's a beautifully shot film.
The Shining
and Us.
Well, yes, but like if everybody, like, it's not an interesting shot when everybody does the same shot, right? When it was done in The Shining, it's like, whoa, that's fucking cool. But then, like, look at it this way, you know, like the Sex Pistols and the Clash and stuff, just like 3-bar chord, like like kind of stuff. It's like, okay, right on. And then we get to like, you know, like the early 90s stuff. It's like Green Day, and you're starting to get like Blink-182 and stuff. You're like, okay, it's not original, but they're still doing the thing. And then now you've got pop punk bands that are wanting to do it, and it's just like, we fucking heard it for 50 years, guys, do something new. So it's that kind of thing where it's just like, okay, The Shining came out in 1980. Okay, it's acceptable to be influenced by this in the 90s and stuff, early 2000s. It's 2019 when this comes out, and it's like, did you see that? It's like, The Shining's been on TNT forever, guys. Like, come on. Like,
but it's not like people are gonna point it out and be like, oh, did you see that? It was a great shot. But like, it's still a nice shot, and you kind of pick up on it and go, oh, it's nice.
There are so many other cool shots in The Shining that can be used, though. That's what I'm saying. It's like, you can still be like,
so maybe it's not solely that one,
oh my God,
camera angle. Like, this is my Shining influence.
It always is. It's like
maybe one of these other movies, it was the same thing, and that's where he drew inspiration from. We don't know.
I do. I was there. And Jordan Peele was like, Nick's gonna love this. I'm gonna do this same over the top down the road shot. Like the shot from The Shining that not a lot of people do, that is a fucking great shot, is Jack Nicholson's head against the door, like yelling in and everything, and the camera's like down on the floor looking up. Do that one. Nobody really does that shot, and it's so much cooler. But no, we're just going to do literally the same opening, and it's the same thing. Opening shot for The Shining, we're going to use the opening shot in Us. We're going to use the same opening shot in fucking like all these goddamn movies. So I'm sorry, I get angry about dumb shit.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those. It all just comes down to if someone does it and it's just like, oh yeah, I got that. But like when they're like, I really love The Shining, could you tell? It's like, we get it, guys. Come the fuck on. Son of a bitch.
He had so many other movies, though, also. So it's not... That was his only influence.
No, I know, but what I'm saying, though, is like, first shot in The Shining is the same as the first shot in the... I wonder. I'm going to have to get on the interwebs and look. It's an obscene amount of movies that do this shot, and they do it at the opening of the film. Like, it's one of those things. I'm like, I get it. It's lazy. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right.
I didn't mind it.
I'm sure you didn't.
I honestly didn't even notice that. It's The Shining.
You don't even notice that you're watching a movie half the time.
Like, ooh, what's this?
This is not the Celtics game.
Other than that, I don't really have too much.
Okay.
Let's get into spoiler territory.
Well, first, before we get into spoiler territory, kind of want to like put it up to 2019. So 2019, this comes out. This is also the same year that for horror films. Let's see here. We got Dr. Sleep, which is your boy Mike Flanagan, which is cough cough, a sequel to The Shining.
Yeah.
Escape Room, Crawl, Ma, Pet Cemetery remake, The Curse of La Llorona, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Annabelle Comes Home. Now here's the thing. Okay, so now we're getting to number 2 and number 1. Annabelle Comes Home makes its gross is $74 million. You then jump over $100 million to go to number 2 and number 1.
Wow.
So number 2 is Us. This is just horror. And then number 1 is It Chapter 2.
Okay.
So that was 2019 for that year for horror. But then also, none of those films make it into the top 10 for the year because, remember everybody, we got films like, you ready?
Yep.
Jumanji: The Next Level, Aladdin live action remake, Toy Story 4, Star Wars Episode 9: The Rise of Skywalker, Joker, Captain Marvel, Spider-Man: Far From Home, Frozen 2, live action Lion King, and Avengers: Endgame. So basically just Disney.
Yeah. You sounded exhausted reading that list.
I'm exhausted looking at it. Like, it's just like, you like see that and it's like, oh man. Like, the standard movie going public are here for just CGI. And that's fine, but that's a big turnoff for me for the most part. So I know I'm elitist scum. I get it. I've heard it all before. But all that being said, you ready to get into spoiler territory?
Yes, sir.
All right. So if this is your first time hearing us, welcome. Happy New Year. We are a movie club. So how this works is at the end of every episode, we give out homework for the following week. So you can hopefully watch it before the episode airs and nothing gets spoiled for you. You can listen along and tell us how you think we're right, how you think we're wrong. Hit us up, emails, or what have you, like she said. It's all below somewhere. Without any further ado, let's put on some red jumpsuits, maybe grab some shears and talk about Us from 2019.
If you'd like to be part of our horror film club, make sure to follow us at Instagram, Threads, and Facebook at Pod of the Dead. All of our episodes can be found at podofthedeadorelse.com or wherever you stream music and podcasts. If you have movie recommendations or questions for us, email us at podofthedead666@gmail.com. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Or else.
With all that being said, Natasha, give me that blasphemous 10 out of 10.
Blasphemous? Wow. I don't know about that. All right. Well, let's just start by saying this movie is amazing. Disclaimer, you should not compare this to Get Out.
True. I 100% agree with that.
Thank you. First, just side note, I watched Us as my first Jordan Peele movie.
Oh, God, then you must have loved Get Out.
Just because it's from the same director, Jordan Peele knows what it takes to create an original movie. While watching the movie, you can see how much he loves the horror genre himself by all the references and little Easter eggs he put into this movie.
True.
It plays with your mind, and I love that because this movie doesn't end in the theater. Wait, what? This movie doesn't end in the theater, but makes you think about, okay, what it all means. It can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. I feel like if you don't like this movie, it's a matter of taste. True. But if you look at it with a critical eye, this movie is simply amazing. The comedy is perfectly... Like, Nick is the critical eye and I am not. This is my taste.
What they're about to say, I haven't even read it, but what they're about to say, I probably agree with.
The comedy in this is also perfectly implemented into the movie and doesn't feel forced at all.
Yeah, that was probably the shining point. Is like, I really like the dad and everything. Like, as it keeps going on, like that. Yeah.
The lead actress was amazing in her double role. So was the rest of the cast. Looking forward at what the future will bring in this horror. I'm looking forward to what the future will bring for this horror genius, Jordan Peele.
That's fair. Because like, all of my shit talking aside, this isn't a bad movie. The only Jordan Peele film that I'd seen was Get Out. And then he'd put out, at the time of this recording, I believe only 2 other films. I believe it was Us and Nope. Mm-hmm. He's produced other things and like done television series and whatnot. But when it comes to films, that's it. But like, basically, like, I'd only seen the one, and then since then people are like, he's amazing, like all this stuff. So I was just like, oh shit, like I'm really fucking up by not seeing these movies because they must be like not not like Get Out narratively or anything like that, but important in the history of horror, I guess is a good way to put it. So I was like, oh man, like he must be some sort of like transcendent blah blah blah. So that's what I was coming in with. It wasn't like this like this is going to be my favorite horror film of all time or anything like that, but I was like, I mean, I'm not hearing people say like, he really dropped off after Get Out. People are just like nonstop, and especially you're like, oh man, this, I think that you'd said that this is your favorite Jordan Peele film. Is that correct?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I was like, okay. But as this podcast has gone on, it's because you like creepy smiling. That's why you like this. And that's like literally one of my least favorite things in horror films. It's like, oh cool, creepy smiling. Let's go to Hot Topic.
But I think Jordan Peele's movies are just fun horror movies. They're creepy, they're uncomfortable, but there is a bunch of levity in it that you don't, at least his style of doing it, you don't see very often. I think the mix of the atmosphere and the humor, he does really well.
He does. There are just two massive things about this movie that like hurt it big time for me, and we'll get there after I read this review. So you sent me a 1 out of 10. I would not give it a 1 out of 10, but I'm interested. Okay. I'm interested to see if I agree with this person. Horrible product. This is a horrible product. Are they reviewing a sweeper or something? I can't say horrible movie because it is missing the basic elements of a movie. Lupita is an overrated actress whose voice in the movie is anything but scary, more like childish. People are giving too much credit to Jordan Peele for his previous work, Get Out. If you're giving credit for his previous work, have you seen Keanu? Oh shit, did he direct that? That movie's ridiculous. It's about a cat getting kidnapped. Yeah, and Keanu Reeves voices the cat. If you were a professional like doctor, engineer, etc., producing this quality of work, you would fire yourself.
Oh wow.
Very cheesy, poor acting, no storyline. You wouldn't be able to pay me to watch this movie ever again. Those are some harsh words.
Yeah, they are.
I'm in the middle there. Like, I do agree with the thing of like, I think that this movie still lives on. Well, he made Get Out. Like, I honestly feel that, like, with just kind of how it's held up there, and like, I honestly believe that that's probably why the box office was so high.
Yeah.
Because I always look at it like the movie or the album, you know, whatever that comes out that's just like the game changer always really helps the next one, because everybody's like, oh, it's gonna be so. I loved, you know, this Katy Perry album. The next one's gonna be just as good, if not better. And regardless of if it is or not, it's just more than likely gonna outsell it because of the hype surrounding the next new thing. But the inverse can happen too, where like if it got a lot of like hype but it wasn't that good, that following album or movie, we'll say movie or album 3, could be way better, but because everyone got kind of burnt on the second one, the third one's not going to do as well. So it's kind of hard to tell box office numbers and stuff like that, because, you know, I'd be interesting. We'll cover Nope eventually, but like, I'd be interested to see how Nope did compared to this, specifically because of that kind of thing, you know, whatever.
This also has Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke, who were both just in Black Panther before this movie.
Oh, okay.
So that could possibly have something to do with it.
I thought I recognized Winston Duke, but I couldn't place him in anything, and it must be one of those like because I've seen Black Panther, must have been one of those subconscious things. And then Lupita, I really like. I didn't know she was in Black Panther. Again, I'd seen it, but I knew her from it just came out this year, A Quiet Place Day One, which I thought she was fucking great in that. And I don't even care for those movies, but that one's like the best of them, and I think it's because What's His Nuts from The Office doesn't have anything to do with it.
And I think Lupita Nyong'o is a phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
Everything I've seen her, and she's also in 12 Years a Slave. She voices the robot in The Wild Robot. I could just listen to her talk forever.
Yeah, I think the cast in this movie, top to bottom, is really good. Like, you know, your core family down to like the kids that are Jason and Zora, played by Evan and Shahidi. They both are fucking great in it. My biggest problem with the film is not the core family. It's their inverse, like the doppelganger versions.
Okay.
Specifically Red. Because it's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, we're in spoiler territory, but it's like, well, she doesn't know how to speak from birth, but and I know the twist, so but
clearly,
it's like she doesn't know the, you know, blah blah blah, so she's gonna talk weird and all this stuff, and okay, but and I even like I had something in my head and doing research. It's like she literally based her voice on Robert F. Kennedy Jr., specifically the spasmodic dysphonia he suffers from, which is just kind of like this, and it's fucking it comes off as just a bad voice. Like it's not good. Like it's not creepy, it's not even annoying, it's so glaring that I'm just like, ugh, like this doesn't do it. And like that's where we get all the exposition, is in that voice, and it's fucking atrocious. And this goes to directing, because if Jordan Peele heard that and was like, I don't like that, then it wouldn't have happened. He heard that and was like, yeah, that works, I really like that, and it's fucking bad. Like that alone, the fact, well, not alone, but kind of in concert with that voice, with the amount of exposition we get, like that was like 2 points alone that it lost. Because I hate just a movie being like, but my evil plan was, and then we're gonna sit here for what felt like 15 minutes near the end, and it's just like, okay, and it feels like it's trying to be really like socially important and everything. It's trying to be, and you can see that, where it's like, oh, the government came up with this and tried to, you know, control the people, but 2 bodies, 1 soul, and who's real, and all this stuff. And I was just like, this is fucking lame. Like that was my problem with this film, is like anytime it tried to take a big swing, where Get Out's big swings were home runs.
You gotta stop doing that though.
Because it's not about, I'm not comparing the story, I'm comparing the craft of making a film. If you're going to take a big swing, if you miss, like that's the thing. I'm not saying it wasn't as good as Get Out swings. They were fucking strikes, where the others were home runs. So it's not even comparable. It literally is, Get Out took some big swings and it hit on them. Every big swing I felt that this movie tried to make, and I could compare it to other films that have made big swings. Mandy makes huge narrative swings, and I feel it connects on a lot of them. This one, it fucking misses. And why does it miss? Because every big swing it takes is an exposition. So it literally is like, man, I'm interested in this. What's going on? Let me tell you what's going on. And that is lazy writing. That's lazy direction in my book. I'm not a director, I'm not a writer. Fucking sue me. But that does not make for an interesting story. At that point, I just want an audiobook then. If you're just going to tell me the story, I want visual storytelling. You're not giving me visual storytelling. You're giving me a pastiche of shots that you like from other movies, but you're not giving me an interesting narrative. And when it is, quote unquote, trying to be interesting, it's just an exposition. When it's not being just told to you and it's allowing to breathe, that's when it's best. And that's the middle of the film, when it's like kind of comedy here and there, like they get to the other house and they're dealing with the doppelgangers of their friends, and it's like all this like, oh shit, that's when the movie is fucking great. I really, really like that. But the entire beginning of the film, of her like dealing with trauma kind of stuff and everything and just staring at everything all the time, it didn't work for me. So like I put sucked, but I was just kind of bored. I was like, I really hope, like, I get it. You got something in your past like that happened. We don't need to be here for 30 minutes though. So like, I can't remember how long this film is. We'll say
2 hours.
Is it 2 hours? Okay, so half of the film is good, and it's the middle half. Does that make sense? So like, we cut this fucked up. The first 25% of the film sucks, and the last 25% of the film sucks, and then the middle is good. So like, basically, after Red and Co. show up and break into the house and everything, I'm like, okay, I know that this is kind of the point of the film, but so it's not like doing anything. And then she does her fucking, then, you know, she had the child and I had to do it on my own and everything. I'm like, okay, whatever. Once they escape, now the film is interesting. Now, because it's like, oh, we're not at this house the whole time. Okay, this is cool. This is all right. Oh, dad's out on the boat dealing with his whole thing. That's fun. You know, all this is good. Oh shit, it keeps going left. Like, I thought that was fun. That was good. That, you know, we get to the Tyler house and we're dealing with this and cool, fun. Then there's like just some shit that's like put in the film because it visually is cool, but it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like Jason putting his arms out and stepping backward, and that's what forces the other boy to walk backwards into the flames. So, but they're not doing the same thing all the time. So why is he able to do this? And then why does nobody else see this, or it's passed on and nobody else does anything like this? That's part of the family. There's just like these things, like I said, oh, that's interesting. Oh, wait, I thought about it for 1 second and it breaks it. So that's my problem with it, is like, it's visually neat at times. Like, that is a cool shot, the slow-mo kid walking back into the fire. But then like, once you put any thought into it, you're like, it's actually pretty fucking stupid.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't understand why he was able to do that, because he did it in the closet earlier in the movie too, and was able to take Pluto's mask off.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it was, they just had like a little extra connection. But there is a tie to that, because you see all of the people in that second exposition dump, the people above and the people below are doing the same thing.
No, I know that. I get that. That's all I'm saying is, okay, so if they're downstairs doing it and they're all doing the same thing, then why, when they're face to face and stuff and hunting each other down, aren't they doing the same thing? Maybe it's because they're on the surface. Cool, I'll accept that. So then why can Jason why can he make Pluto walk into the fire? Like, that's the thing, is like, we're weirdly making these set of rules, but it doesn't follow its own rules. It just does whatever it wants. Like, it would be cool if like the idea of puppeting the other one was something that was used.
Yeah, used a little bit more.
It never is, except for with Pluto and Jason, but there's no explanation to why. Like, it would work, I guess, if the payoff at the end of the film was because of that. Like, that Adelaide and Red, if the reason she was able to best the other one was because of the puppeting, that would have been a payoff. Like, oh, cool, yeah, that makes sense. But it never comes back. It's never utilized in a meaningful way.
That's true. It's used in, like you said, a visual way with that, or with them, like, because I thought the part where they were all in the I want to say the basement, in the tunnels.
The downstairs is what I called it.
When they're in the downstairs doing what everyone's doing in the carnival, that part was unsettling to me.
Really?
They're like,
I just laughed at it with like the people riding the roller coaster in the hallway. I was just like,
yeah,
what?
And I'm sure it could be taken either way, but there's like I think there's like an unsettling feeling throughout a lot of this movie with her, you know, the ballerina dancing. Even at the very beginning, this is probably a shot taken from another movie. But
hey, it is.
You probably didn't care for it, but I really liked the opening scene with the rabbits and the music. I thought that seems like a quintessential Peele start, like where you come into it and it's off. It's off-putting just slightly.
It's another Kubrick shot.
Well, I liked it.
It's the focusing in hard and slowly pulling out. That's from A Clockwork Orange. That is straight up. We're right on Alex DeLarge's face, and we're pulling out, and we're seeing the people around him, and he's giving his dialogue, and there's like ominous music going on, and it literally is just another Kubrick film. So that's, yeah, and I love A Clockwork Orange. But again, it's another one of those things that it's just like, that's the shot that most people will remember. So it's just like, we're taking these shots from all this stuff. And by making a collage of that stuff, it's not artful in my book. Go ahead.
It's not artful to you, but think about the person like me who sees these shots
and then credit for coming up with them.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. But then starts to do research on what his interests are. And then you're opening up this whole canon of film that you might not have ever known about.
And I can give him credit for that because he's not Rob Zombie. He does flat out say that I like this and this is why I did this. Right. So I am fine with that. My thing is that why didn't you just take another shot? You're just taking the shots that everybody else takes too. So that's my problem.
Did Kubrick do a shot with a giant wall full of rabbits with kind of creepy music playing behind it? No, like that is him. The rabbit component is a Peele.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying.
Hallmark.
I'm not talking about that. It's the full-fledged, like the shot, not the scene. The shot. So when he's talking, well, throw your hands up at me. This is an audio platform.
It's no different than every song, every note has already been played.
Whoa.
That's not every even close shot, to fair.
Then every word has been written. Every shot
has already been taken. He's just doing it in his own scene. There's only so much you can do with a camera.
No, and I understand that. But when your entire film is basically, and this is how I look at it, when your entire film is a cover album, I have a problem with that.
But it's not, because it's not taken direct. It's influenced by.
The first two shots of the film are Kubrick shots. The fucking car driving, and the beach scene where he's running off and everything is Jaws. Like he's been open about that. I would be very interested. I'll never see it, but I'd be very interested to see his notebook of where his notepad on his computer of like, and I want this shot from this movie for this scene. And I want this shot because that's what this movie is, which in theory for a teaching exercise that works. Okay. But when I go to watch a movie by someone that is considered to be a very good director, okay, I don't expect to just watch everybody else's scenes in a pastiche, or shots rather, in a pastiche. This is very similar to like when Gus Van Sant like got money and everything in the 90s. They're like, so what movie do you want to do? And he's like, I want to do a literal shot for shot remake of Psycho. And it is that. Why not watch the Hitchcock Psycho? It is the exact same movie. It's just in color now. And we've got Vince Vaughn in it and stuff. I don't necessarily want that. So this to me comes off as a passion project, obviously. Like I said, it would be hard for me when it comes to like the Easter eggs, but when it comes to the shots, that is a huge problem for me. There's not going to be a lot of people that are as annoyed as I am with that. I'm just a film snob, so I pick up on this stuff. There are plenty of listeners that probably aren't even aware of these things, and they got to enjoy it more than I did. And believe me, I wish I was, what's the word? Don't be insensitive. I wish I didn't have the glut of film history stuck in my brain for these things, because then I could enjoy these more, because I do understand and I agree with your sentiment of, well, it would allow me to look back and find these other films. But I think that that's a very small margin of people that do that work. Those people are probably already like me in that sense, or they're building towards becoming me, and there are people far more informed than I am. But at the end of the day, my thing is when somebody is considered a visionary director, top director of their field in this genre and stuff, I feel that it's kind of a disservice to that name. Grant, he didn't ask for that, all this stuff. But
Right.
But when it's just, like I said, a lot of the shots are just taken from things. I guess whatever.
But like you said, he didn't give himself that name. He's making what he wants to make, and people are watching it.
Correct.
He's making his movies as an artist. This is what he wants to create because it's what he likes.
Correct.
If people are out there saying that you're not top tier because you're taking other people's stuff, I don't think he cares. He's just doing what he wants to do, because obviously, then Nope is like a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, and obviously he's a successful director and all this stuff. I think he's good for the horror genre because it gets people talking, all these things. And again, this is just me being a cynical asshole that has his own taste. And when people compare things to things that I like and I don't think the comparison is warranted, I get defensive because my opinion matters more than anybody else's opinion. I know I have a problem. This is me, okay? You just take it or leave it. But like, I
just can't believe that you are getting so up in arms over the fact that he had his cast watch Martyrs and you lost your shit over that.
Because there's nothing comparable to Martyrs in this.
And maybe it's not meant to be comparable. It's just to get like an essence of what he's going for. These aren't comparisons.
No,
all the
I know,
time.
But to me, it comes off
There's a difference between a comparison and an influence.
Oh, no, I get it.
But do you?
I do. This is, let me fucking speak. I mean, I talk a lot anyway.
You've been speaking this whole time.
No, but like my thing is like, it feels like one of those like cool kid drops. Like, oh, I made him watch Martyrs and blah, blah, blah. So then like people like me, they're like, before they even see the film, they're like, oh, you fucking, okay, I'm kind of interested in this. I wasn't interested when he was saying The Shining and Jaws because, I've seen that shit a billion times. He said Martyrs. I'm interested to see how he was influenced, or like some like plot points, or maybe like some. The only thing that I would say is comparable is that Martyrs has a huge shift where we're like, now we're underground. That's it. But so does Goonies, which there are references to Goonies in this movie. My favorite reference, though, in this movie, and it's basically right off the rip when they're watching, when Adelaide is watching TV and you're seeing like Hands Across America and stuff. There is a VHS copy of the movie Chud, which I actually have right behind me, which deals with, Chud stands for Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers. It literally is a science fiction horror film about a group of subterranean creatures that live in the tunnels below the surface of New York City. So when I heard that, like, oh, this movie's like, it's kind of influenced by Chud, I was expecting something, and it fucking wasn't that either. Because like the way they were acting, like Red and the subterranean people, I was like, they're creatures. They're creatures in these skins. Oh no, they're not. They're made by the government, and it's the souls are into. But then we don't do anything with that.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's style, and whatever, right? But there's no heart to this movie, and that's my problem. The heart in this movie is Lupita's acting, because she can cry on a dime.
Yeah.
That's it, though. There's no, like, nobody else is matching that, like, emotion. And I understand that she's the one that has been legit swapped, which is supposed to be like this, like, ooh, I didn't care by the time we got there. Please tell me what it is about these things that you like. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but like, I'm just fucking dunking on this film nonstop, and I feel bad. But like, these are the reasons. I'm just like, what is it? What is it about this film that you like?
And I mean, I hate to say, like, you're not wrong. There are a lot of like little nuggets that you just kind of want more of, but I'm okay with it being surface and it not being super deep, because it's, like I said, it's a fun movie. This is one that I will watch again. And this is one that I think a lot of what you get out of it is the the little hidden gems, like the people's names, how there is a duality in the names of the red people versus the up top people. Their names are tied together in a lot of cases, which I think is really cool.
How so? Jason and Pluto.
That's
the first one that comes to mind because any of them.
So Pluto, for instance, is the Roman god of hell. He's essentially Hades.
Okay, yeah.
So
I know that.
the fire component with Pluto, he was born out of the fire. Then Jason has like his little fire toy that he's playing with. Okay. There's some biblical reference to Jason. Give me 1 second.
Well, there is a huge thing from Jeremiah 11:11 in this that we'll talk about. So if that's the whole biblical.
The doubling of the doubles.
Well, it's not so much that. Okay, so you have, at the very beginning of the movie, you see kind of like your street preacher kind of guy or whatever you want to call it, holding the sign, and it's Jeremiah 11:11. Later on, you keep seeing 11 in a lot of things. The baseball score is 11, all this stuff. So I looked it up. Jeremiah 11:11 says, "Therefore, this is what the Lord says. I am about to bring on them disaster that they cannot escape. They will cry out to me, but I will not hear them." And it's like, cool. Doesn't fit. It does not feel like it fits with like what happens in the film. It's one of those.
Everyone dies. How does that not fit?
Because, okay, so let's look at this. Yeah, everyone dies. I get that. But like the basis of this is what the Lord says. I'm about to bring on them disaster that they cannot escape. Correct. I get that. But then the rest of it, they will cry out to me, but I will not hear them. So are we to suggest that like God allowed this, but has forsaken the up top people because the downstairs people were created? Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't fucking get like.
Or the inverse, the people downstairs, the tunnel people, were forsaken and they were screaming out and no one came for them.
But they're not destroyed. The disaster is not to them. The disaster is to the ones up top.
The disaster was kind of to them when the people left and left them there.
I don't know. It just, to me, it seems like something that's like, this kind of works. Let's throw this in there. That's cool. So like, it was one of those things I was waiting to like, oh, Jeremiah 11:11. That's going to be like a huge, I read it and I was like, oh, I literally was expecting it to be something about shadows or something about, like doppelgängers, something about the soul, something, whatever. And it was just like, bad stuff's going to happen and I'm not going to listen to them. And I was just like, oh, that's not what I was expecting. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Or something about something coming from beneath, whatever. But it wasn't.
And to me, I saw 11:11, like the time you're supposed to make a wish, blah, 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 is, like I said, a double of a double. So it's 1111.
Yeah, no, I got
that. So there's that little nugget too.
Correct. Same with the black flag logo. Like I was saying, the black flag logo is 4 black bars, which again is just 11:11. It doesn't fucking matter though. Like it's surface level. It's all style, no substance. And that is my TED Talk. All style, no substance. It tries to give you substance, but I think when it does, that's where it's just RFK Jr. fucking choking up something, being like, and that was the first time I ever danced, and because of that, I am forever grateful to you.
Okay, so you pointed out Jason and Pluto, who I don't have like a great connection to.
Those are just the ones that Pluto. I have.
But Kitty and Dahlia are references to Kitty Genovese, who was brutally murdered in the 60s, I think. And it's a psychological study also where Kitty Genovese was stabbed multiple times in her apartment, like foyer, and people saw, and she was dying in her foyer. Nobody called the police, and the murderer came back and stabbed her more times and finished her off. Okay. So Kitty Genovese, white woman, huge following, like she's still iconic to this day. And then the Black Dahlia murder, who is Kitty's doppelganger, where she died in a field and her face was slashed. So I like those little nuggets where these people are names and you kind of notice the name, like, okay, there has to be a connection. Now I want to do a little more research into that. It was like that for, so with that, and then like, you know, Kitty gets her plastic surgery, and then Dahlia has the marks on her face.
Well, and she starts cutting her face. I thought, like, when I was doing research, I saw that. I was like, oh, that's cool. But again, go on.
It's okay. Why does it need to go deeper? Like, I'm okay with that.
I don't know. I just wanted it to, because it was playing with some deep subject matter. It literally was like, literally it gives you this thing. What if you were cloned, but the soul is torn between two? Okay, that right there. That is really fucking interesting.
That's what the movie is.
But it doesn't do anything with it. We get that in exposition near the end, but if you rewatch it or go back through and just think about it, that doesn't matter. Even like, because like they do the thing where like they're both moving at the same time, but like when push comes to shove, they don't do that. But
their actions and like their motives are, I see it as their motives are different based on that split. One is light, one is dark, if you want to go that way.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like Zora and Umbre, those names mean dawn, and I think like Umbre is the darkest of the night, which I think is really cool too. So the daughter and then you have the daughter who's like solemn and like too cool for school, and then Umbre is always with that creepy smile. So those little bits.
Character.
The Tasha character, yeah. So I see the movie as exactly that. It's split into two. You have the people on top who have their persona, who are the ego complex. They have to be a certain type because of like their upbringing. It's nature. This is pure, like kind of like your environment forms who you are. Then you have the people in the depths, in the tunnels, the tethered, who are the dark. They're also the dark because they've never been to the light, because you see what can happen when Red got swapped. She is no different than the up top people because of how she was brought up. And you have the people in the dark who don't get the chance to be in the light. And that's what's become of them. They're the id. They are pure instinct. They're pure rage. They're pure dark. They're pure shadow, because that's what's bred them. They haven't seen essentially a good example of how you could be, because they were never given a shot. This doesn't have to go deeper than the haves and have-nots and all of that. But if you look at just like, this was how you were born into this. This is how you will be raised. The parents of Adelaide, where you have their counterparts in the depths too. You see them walking as if they're walking in the carnival in the tunnels. Then they get swapped. So she was born there, came out of that, and became Adelaide, essentially. Correct. Over time, where then Adelaide kind of turned dark because that's all she was around, was the darkness. And she makes that sentence of like, things could have been different had you taken me with you, but instead you just swapped. So Adelaide is no better than who you think the real Adelaide is, or Red essentially is no better than Adelaide in this, because she never went back for her people. She just let them stay. So I think that storyline is what you're watching, and it doesn't have to be deeper than that.
Well, no, it's not that it has to be. It's just one of those things where when you're dealing with what I would consider socially a heavy concept of privilege and not privileged, have and have not, I feel it's weak to just use it as that. It doesn't go any deeper than, well, they were privileged and they weren't. It's like, okay, but like anybody could do that. Anybody could just take race, religion, whatever, make it a surface level film that's just black and white, you know, whatever the case may be, you know, horns, no horns. Okay. Then, but that's as far as we're going to it. Like a child can understand the difference between like, well, these guys got to live a normal life and these guys were shackled up. Okay, but like, are we going to get anything more than just an exposition dump twice in the film?
But it was a slasher with that around it. Like, we're missing that component too. This is still a fun horror cat and mouse game.
No, I get that, but that's where I'm saying is it feels like two different scripts smashed together. It does not seem cohesive. It feels like we're in a slasher. Now here's an exposition dump from this other script that I've got. Now we're gonna have a funny comedy kind of slasher and everything. Here's another exposition dump from this other thing. It does not feel organic, because if it were organic, those middle spots and like the beginning, the middle, all that, anything that's not the exposition spots would have that kind of stuff kind of peppered in. They wouldn't have to just dump it on you. There would be like, oh, this is happening because it means this, but like it just removes that and goes, it means this because we're telling you it means this. That's where my problem lies. That's why I keep saying it does need depth, because if it had depth, you wouldn't need exposition dumps.
I see. Those
exposition dumps are there because it lacks depth. Not every film needs to be deep, right? A film can be Friday the 13th Part 7, but Friday the 13th Part 7 isn't trying to talk about privilege. It's not trying to talk about these things that are actually a lot more interesting. But by just kind of shoving it in there, personally, it does a massive disservice to both sides of the film. I would like this movie if the story was parsed out through it and not just, here it is. Because I could literally just watch a 20-minute supercut of this film then, and it's just like, oh, that's what the movie's about.
And I do think the exposition jump, especially at the end, was too long. The one at the beginning I liked. I liked the storytelling of it, because then you're seeing, we clearly just aren't going to see eye to eye about this movie at all. But you're seeing fine. all of the little bits that she's talking about through the other characters in relation to their doppelganger. Correct. That's what I just keep pulling it back to. It's the duality of people more so than the duality of a society.
Those expositions also wouldn't be so grating if that voice wasn't so bad.
I would prefer her doing it in her own voice. Correct. Like
that's what I'm saying is like, it's not just the exposition. It's the way in which the expositions, it's like, that's why I'm saying it's like those two spots in the film hurt this film so much.
And it, like, the voice bothered me, but there's a reason to that voice. She's not around anyone that talks, so she's never using her voice.
The reason is because she's strangled out, and it's supposedly that, like, her vocal cords are, like, crushed a bit and everything, because you see that. So, like, that's why her shit's fucked. But even then, it's...
So there's a point to it. That's the thing. Like, for a lot of it, for some bits there, we don't know the point. But for those other little bits, it might not be the best way of doing it, but there's a point to it.
Yeah, she should have had like one of those like things that you put up to your throat, and it's like, got him. I would have been more okay with that. Like, cybernetic ghost to Christmas past or in the future, that shit, 1,000,000 years ago. Like, that's what it felt like. It was just like, and now it's story time. But I will give high points. I like when the dad is fighting himself on the boat and he like headbutts the motor, and that's what causes the rope to get caught in the propeller and he's pulled down. I was like, right on. See, and this is all in the part where it's like just being the slasher. Yeah. But at the same time, like, we're not, and I'm not going to harp on this, but like, that's the only thing it's being right now is just the slasher. That's cool. I'm cool with just the slasher element. Let me think here. What other cool parts were there? Because I did like that. I liked almost everything with the dad once he gets hit in the leg with the baseball bat. Because when he's trying to be Mr. Hardass and everything, he's kind of annoying. But like once he gets hit in the knee, I'm just like, okay, now he's just like, oh shit, man, I was just fucking around, all that stuff. The kids act well, but I don't think there's much memorable about what. I liked them when they were in the Tyler house and they're like they're going hunting and stuff like that. I liked that. That was fun.
I really liked Zora when she was like, I'm driving. I have the highest kill count.
yeah, like that stuff. That's all good, But yeah, like I would say the Tyler household when their doppelgangers show up, that whole area of the film is the high point in the movie for me.
Yeah.
Because not only was it like, you know, like the coolest parts of it and stuff like that, but it also raised a big question that I had that it gave me ultimately an underwhelming answer. I thought it was the same people and they were changing their forms. So I thought like it was like, now they're gonna go hunt these people and stuff, but now they're just gonna look like them. And it just goes on to the thing of like, are these like creatures from underground that are taking on the forms of these people? Because it's still 4 people in both houses. And I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. I really like that. And ultimately it wasn't that. It was just another family that also is only the tethered down below are only able to kill, if I've got this right, their version that's up top, but the ones up top are able to kill any tethered, is what you see in the film. Because Zora kills ones that aren't her, but everybody else kills their own version. And that's why Dahlia doesn't kill Adelaide, because it's not her up top copy. So it's one of those things, it's like, okay, but like it's like, okay, like, but like the house scene was cool.
And you put it all together and you got a pretty good movie.
Some would say. But that's the thing. That's not every movie's for every person, you know.
Right.
But this also isn't going to turn me off from checking out Nope. It's like, okay, we got Get Out, cool. We got Us. We got another one. Okay, we'll shoot for the middle. I imagine it'll be better than Us, but it probably won't be as good as Get Out. And if it's better than Get Out, cool. Like, but like, I didn't expect this to be Get Out. I just was like, okay, this is what he's capable of. Hopefully it's fucking great. And that's what I went in with. That was it. I knew some of the actors that were in it prior to going in. Actually, I only knew Lupita was in this. I knew nobody else. So seeing like Elizabeth Moss and Tim Heidecker in this, I was like, oh, okay. I know them from, you know, I've seen stuff with Elizabeth Moss, and I'm a weird fucking Adult Swim guy, so of course I know who Tim Heidecker is. But at the end of the day, they weren't the shining point. The shining point for me was Winston Duke, the dad.
Seems to be the case.
I know, Psycho Gorman, it's the dad. So you got anything else you want to talk about with this film? You want to try and sell it to me anymore, or tell me how I'm wrong? It's all good. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I've seen the movie, I got my take. You've seen the movie, you got your take.
And I think that's the thing. I'm not trying to sell it, just making sure essentially that like you see it this way. And if you see it, like if you're understanding of what I'm saying and that makes sense, and it still just doesn't hit for you, then it doesn't hit for you. But for me, that's what I really liked. Well,
and that's the whole thing about this movie, is knowing that you liked it as much as you did. That's all I knew. I didn't know what you rated it or anything, but I knew that you're like, this is my favorite Jordan Peele movie. I was like, oh, that's high praise. And then
I'm probably not gonna like it.
That's not true. That's not true. But then there was like creepy smiling, and I was like, I get it now. But I was expecting head smashing. Was there any head smashing in this?
No head smashing.
I don't buy it that you like this movie then. Jason
bludgeoned one of the doppelganger twins with a giant geode. So
we'll count it. We'll count it. It was off-screen head smash. That makes sense. Yeah. Creepy smiles, head smash. That's Tasha all day.
As soon as the Red family was in the driveway, that's when I was like, Nick's gonna take issue with this. I said that out loud.
It was one of those things, but like I liked the way it ended up going, because it was like they're standing out there, and I was expecting them to go back out and they're gone, and I was like, gonna be like, this is fucking lame, but they weren't. They stayed there, and then they just charged the door basically. I was like, okay, all right, I can get down on this. And then like the home invasion happens, and I'm just like, this makes sense why Tasha likes this. It's home invasion, it's creepy smiles, it's like it makes sense why you like this movie, but it also then makes sense why I'm not a huge fan of this movie. All that being said, though, the dialogue and like let's just remove the exposition spots and everything, right? I think it's well shot, it's well acted. And it I think it was under 2 hours, so that's a win. But yeah, like I can see why this movie has its fans, but we'll get ready to get into review territory. Oh wait,
I did forget. I have one more thing. I was watching an interview with Lupita, and she said that since they're obviously playing themselves, when they were acting against themselves, Jordan Peele played their counter.
Always?
Yeah, at least for
cool.
her.
Oh,
like
okay.
he would be either the red or the up top person.
He was always the
those
back
shots.
of the head.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Which I thought was really cool.
I really like that.
She said that really helped her stay in character and be able to like emote the way that she was supposed to, was having this amazing actor, her counter.
Yeah, I'm all for seeing Lupita in more horror films because, like I said, like I think she did great in this movie. It's just the voice that she puts on later, or as Red, but like she can emote like a motherfucker. Same with Elizabeth Moss. The two I would say adult women that are in this film for the most part are emoters out the ass. Like, so that's great. But yeah.
But that's all I have.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna make mine short and sweet because I've been on it this whole time. But what do you think I'm giving this film?
5.5.
You are exactly right. I am giving this movie a 5.5. So that means I would watch it again. But the caveat would be that somebody else wanted to watch it. I'm not going to put this on for myself. Now, and this is the thing, right? Watch the film. I expected more depth. I looked it up. There's not more depth. If I would have looked it up and they were like, oh, like this kind of stuff, blah, 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 that would have made me want to watch it more with that in mind to pick up on stuff that I missed. But I didn't miss anything. The only thing that I quote unquote missed was the Jeremiah 11:11, but that's because I'm going to hell and I don't know my scripture. But that was it. The rest of it I picked up on. I am interested in watching Nope eventually. Maybe we'll get to it this year. But yeah, 5.5 I think is a fair rating. Like I said, there's no way that I could give this movie below a 5 because of the acting. Like the acting is good. I just think that the script was trying too much. That's about it. For you,
What do you think I'm going to give it?
I think you're giving this movie like an 8.
You're very close. I'm giving it a 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah. I will watch this again. This, like I said, this is my favorite Jordan Peele movie I've now seen all 3 of them. Yeah, I like that I didn't have to do a ton of research to understand the movie.
That's fair.
I'm not gonna lie. I appreciated that I got the Easter eggs, that I got I'm happy that I got the movie.
That's fair. That is 100% fair. I can understand that.
So getting the Easter eggs, doing a little research of watching like the credits, of figuring out the names, like seeing a couple of them come through, like I got excited to go, okay, there has to be something to this, and looking up and like being right that these names do matter, that I understood the overarching reason for the movie. Like, this is a good, and it's fun. I like it because I like his style.
Yeah.
Okay, so shots are taken. Yeah, shots are taken from other people. I don't care.
So, not to step on your toes or anything, but like, do you see a similarity in direction between Peele and Flanagan at all? Like, because you like them both. Is there something about their like visual storytelling? Or, well, and Flanagan writes,
there has to be,
writes his, so they're like, there's something there about those two directors that you really, really like.
Yeah.
And that's interesting to me. Like not in a bad way, but it is interesting to me when they're like two directors that you like, and I'm like, so what is it about him? You're like, I don't know, I just like him. I'm just like, oh, because I'm so like locked into like what I like about things So when I ask that question, you're like, I don't know, I just like it. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know why you like it?
I'll need to pay more attention because it's those two and then Ari Aster. Like there's kind of a big difference between those two and him, but there is definitely like a visual component to it. How the scoring is done with some of the cinematography, I know, is a component of it. The actors that he casts, I think, is a component of both of those guys.
Jordan Peele definitely. I like his casting of people more than Flanagan's casting of people. If we're going to use our comparisons there, like I think Jordan Peele is a far better writer of making real characters.
Yeah.
Opposed to Mike Flanagan's feel like actors playing characters, where Jordan Peele's characters just feel like those are real people. Yeah, I will give that.
I get that a lot in his movies, more so. Yeah, right. But when I'm watching, say, like The Haunting of Hill House or Oculus, I'm watching those, and those are some movies where I don't necessarily feel like I'm plopped into them. I talk a lot about like having a proxy in a lot of movies. With Mike Flanagan, I don't, but they're fun to watch, and I still get a little immersed, but not as much as I would in, say, Hereditary or something like that. Aside from like those things, I can't think of like bullet points as to why I like them. I just gravitate towards their style, and it's probably just it all together, because there are some, like Gerald's Game, that I didn't care for. Correct. That was a Flanagan movie, but
that wasn't because of anything other than the script. It was because it dealt with subject matter that you didn't care for.
The script, I didn't like the main actor. I didn't like the guy. I didn't like that it was all set in one building. Like it was just the bedroom. I didn't like that. Okay. So there are some components that
if you want to hear our take on Gerald's Game, it's back in the archive.
It's a hot one. But yeah, I'll definitely watch this movie again. I was excited to watch it for the podcast.
Yeah, I was excited to knock it off my list.
There's just something. It's like I could see this being like a comfort watch or something like that, where if it's ever on, I will watch it.
Okay, I can respect that. I was shocked though. I didn't want to explain this earlier. I was shocked that this was not available for streaming anywhere, considering the amount of money it made. I was like, how is this not on a streaming service? And I think it was recently. I think it just came off, but that's what shocked me. I was like, I gotta rent this? And not because like, I've gotta rent a movie. I was just like, how the fuck isn't this on like Max or something like that? It just seems like it would be. It's within the last 5 years. It made $250 million. Like, what? And yeah.
I think it was on Netflix at one time. Because the first time I watched it, we streamed it.
Yeah.
So maybe it was contracts or something.
I saw the cover of it recently, like within the last couple months. So it must have just popped off. But all right. So IMDb, it's more on your side, but it's a 6.8, which is actually pretty high for horror on IMDb. So you overscore it, I underscore it. So what does that give us as our total for Us?
That gives Us a 66%.
Yeah. So you'll more than likely like Us. If you haven't seen it, we ruined the film for you. I don't think we ruined the film for you. I mean, yeah, we kind of gave away plot points or whatever, but this is definitely a movie that, like, you got to see it and make your own opinion on it, because my opinion on it is based solely on being a film snob. I don't try to be. I'm not trying to act like I went to fucking film school and like, well, actually, but it's just I've seen so many movies that I pick up on things. And Tasha has seen a lot of movies. She just doesn't pick up on things. Like, that's the difference, is I'm overly critical and Tasha is not. That's it. So that's what makes this our dichotomy work. Because if we were both me, it would just be a fucking snob fest. If it was both Tasha, it would never get recorded because she would forget that we had to record.
Hey now.
No, I'm just kidding.
That's hilarious.
But all right, so it is homework time. Let me bring it up. I did not have this brought up. I think I know what it is. I believe we are covering. There it is. Yep, that's what I thought. So for next week, we will be covering The Mist.
Ooh.
So we'll be getting all foggy with it. If you've not seen The Mist, I guess that you don't have TNT, because they used to show this movie all the fucking time on TNT. There's something about TNT and like growing up that I guess I watched the fuck out of that. But
Favorite of ours growing up. Yeah.
That will be our homework for next week. You've seen The Mist. I've seen The Mist.
Have.
So, but we've never really talked about it. So this will be interesting. So, for Pot of the Dead, I am Nicholas.
I am Natasha.
Come back and listen to us, or else.